Good afternoon and welcome to the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia. The lovely Terry is here with all her knowledge and Genius Zone itself that we're going to jump right into in just a few seconds. Welcome. Good to see you.
It is really good to see you too, but where's the rest of your trousers?
Just to hide those bits.
I mean, we
nothing.
really love the leg, the way that the leg is crossed over one. So,
oh, look, I try and hide the legs.
It's a bit of a charismatic point.
Is it really?
It really is.
Okay.
I just thought I'd let you know that.
I kind of appreciate that. I mean, I try and hide behind the old, I was about to say Ghostbusters. They're certainly not. They're, what was the game called? Come on, what was it?
Ghostbusters.
No, Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
I hide behind Pac-Man and the laptop, but no. You're on to me there. A little bit of a side note story on this. I don't know if you're aware of this, and probably you are. Let's be honest, you're a worldly person. But it has been well recognised. A lot of newsreaders out there, they wear the shorts, they wear the suit and the tie, but underneath, there's often a pair of Okanuis or something going on down there. So,
right?
Yeah, try to sneak in. Summer in Australia.
I was totally blindfolded by this because when I came into the online space, Aaron, I thought that I could just get up, wear my pajamas and wear a really groovy top and nobody would know any different. Then I found that I got more views when I actually stood up and showed that I was wearing my pajamas. So, I mean, whether it's true or not, it doesn't really matter, does it? At the end of the day,
it's illusion. Life is a bit of an illusion.
Shoulders up. From the shoulders up. Apparently that's the thing.
Is that the thing? Okay, well, thank you for the lesson in posture. We'll go with that. I'm looking forward to the show as I do every single week. And I just worthy of a mention on that. I mean that. I really do. I think that the time that we talk about things, the subjects we talk about, the ability to talk about people's personal stories and be able to get the questions in, it means a lot to me, and I really enjoy that. And it's a great way of interacting with people and seeing what's going on. So,
that's right. Yeah. That's right. So interact, guys. Ask questions.
For sure.
And perhaps we could even kick off with what we were talking about last week before we had some space invaders. And
that's a great idea.
We had
space invaders. Very well put. I call them other things, but all right. We'll go.
But anyway, before that, I mean, what we can do is talk about manifestation today.
Yeah.
But also how we can turn our pain into our power, because that is all about the zone of genius. And so quite often, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, what do you do when you really want to manifest something, but your frequency is flat?
Oh, I don't know about my frequency.
Your energy. If your energy is, say, flat, and remember we talked about it about 2 shows ago,
I do.
Where we move our body.
Yeah.
So if you have a situation where you're in this feeling of whatever it is and it's negative, usually we get stuck into a posture.
Is this why you wanted me to dance before we started the show? Is that what that was all about?
I couldn't get him to dance. No, I couldn't convince him.
I'm not dancing.
Yep, I couldn't get him to do that.
Boy dance. No, I'm not even doing that. No.
But, sometimes you've just got to move that magic energy through your body.
There's a really clever thing I learned from you because, when you were talking about it and shifting energy and shifting where you are, it does. It actually kind of, it ignited something in me. I realised that it's so true. You think about how stagnant you become.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a bad mood or things aren't going your way, whatever, you become a bit of a couch potato.
Yeah, well, this is true. I think we can become really comfortable, and comfortability doesn't create greatness.
No, it doesn't.
And it's the way we look at it, our adversities. So if we look at it and we allow ourselves to go down into that pit and to stay there, and I think there's a time and a place when to wallow and, allow yourself to be in those feelings. But then when it's time to go, right, okay, what does this mean for my life? What is the message in this? What can I do to, obviously listen to what's going on in the universe? Because sometimes we get given signs. Now, did you know And, I'm not going to talk medical stuff because, I don't know medical stuff.
All right.
But if we ignore our life purpose,
Mm-hmm.
we are all born to have purpose, Aaron. Did you know that?
Do you know what? I didn't think that before. As my life has evolved, I've realised that. I really have. A lot
because
of people,
all your adversity.
Yeah, perhaps it could have been exactly right.
You've had a
Yeah,
lot.
actually, bang on.
Yeah.
We're not just designed in life to wake up every day, go to work, and go to bed and repeat, as necessary on constant repeat. There's a lot more to life of working and paying taxes, right?
Yeah.
So
you're sort of walking around in your sleep when you do that.
You really are.
I had a Kundalini yoga teacher who called it cold depression.
Right.
It's when people are just, in autopilot. So they're not really thinking about what they're doing. They're just doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're walking around like a zombie until they meet with something that wakes them up.
So true.
So we do have to learn to become conscious.
Well, I wasn't conscious. I mean, before the Kundalini yoga you mentioned before, like I was in the supermarket, I couldn't find it in the deli section. It wasn't any there, right? I wasn't awake to it.
Okay, I don't think it's a yogurt, Aaron. However, I totally get that. So, I mean, consciously becoming conscious, this is where there's so much hype about hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
You tell people, I'm a hypnotherapist, and they think, oh my gosh, she can manipulate me, or she can make me do something beyond my, what my free will is, which is a load of absolute rubbish.
Okay. So no quacking like a duck.
Oh, no quacking like a duck.
Okay.
It's all about liberation. I believe after years and years and years of working with people, we're not actually hypnotizing them, we're unhypnotizing them.
That's a cool way of looking at it.
Truly.
Well, okay, you're kind of releasing them from social programming, aren't you?
Well, you are, because that's what it is. It's, patterns. They're, they usually come in because they're addicted to something, or they're sabotaging something, or they're playing out this element in their life that just keeps on happening. Do you know what I mean?
I absolutely know.
This feeling is, why do I always end up feeling this way? But it's what it's about. It's actually about a wake-up call. It's about you wanting deep down in your total soul to know and live according to your soul purpose. And when you get hit, when something, kind of slams you, rather than going down, you've got to be able to say, well, okay, you're allowed to feel those feels, but it's also about rising up and then becoming that beacon of light. So becoming like yourself, you've gone through so much, and what you have gone through is such a great ambassadorship, if you will, to other men. It's not about trying. You don't even try, Aaron. I don't even know.
Trust me, I'm very trying.
I don't even know that you set out. Like, you didn't wake up one day, right, when you were a young man and go, you know what? I am going to go out there. I'm going to have a family. I'm going to, have children. And then I'm going to totally sabotage my life and allow this and this and this. You didn't map that out.
No way in the world. I had very different
that.
plans indeed.
You did. However, there's something about the fact that you've been selected for that. See, everybody's got their own cross to bear. And, they say to pick your own, pick your own wars. Hi, Christian. How are you?
Great comment there from Christian. Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you right now, Terry could absolutely help you out, mate. I think that, and this is a big part of what we try and do here. We're obviously with Edge, we obviously are about free speech. And a part of free speech is or allow yourself to say the things that you didn't want to say, even to yourself.
Yeah.
Because how often do we restrict our own free speech?
Yeah.
And we don't. So wonderful people like Terry will, teach you skills that will enable you to I don't know, I'm going to use the wrong language here, but to kind of confront yourself so you actually make some changes. So that's a good thing.
So, Christian, I would like to ask you, do you know what your deepest desire is? Like, do you know what your purpose
Oh,
is? And, a lot of people think it's about, oh, you've got to create this big vision of, I want this 3-story mansion with 4 cars.
sure. 4 is just a start.
Rolls Royces, perhaps
Yeah.
Lamborghinis, perhaps little, Capris
Little
and
quirky
little
different things.
race
Yeah, little
cars
race
or whatever.
cars.
And picket fences. No, it's not about that. That's not where it begins. It's not about materialistic things. We can't take those things with us.
100% agree with you. And obviously, look, I mean, I know Christian, obviously, and I will say this with Christian, I've watched him develop and him change over the last few years, and what an incredible family man he's become, and how much having a family and having a wife and a child to love and care for and provide, like how much it's changed him, and how much he's risen because of it.
Wow.
And to me, like, that's not materialistic. That's not,
No.
it's not a big house. It's not a big,
No.
a fancy garage full of cars.
No.
What he's doing is actually, in my opinion, far more valuable.
Yeah. And you may love racing those cars, and it's great to be able to lift your energy, lift your frequency, and be in that situation where you can literally feel the life force that is within you, right? At the end of the day, everybody wants to feel a certain feeling. Yep. So people want to generally feel a sense of love and connection. That's really a big one.
So many of us, that's what we want, right?
Yeah, a love and connection. And, if we perceive that we don't have it, we tend to want it more. It's a very interesting thing. It's like
that's
that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like that void.
Yeah.
So that void that lives within us. However, isn't it interesting to know that if that is a void, that can be something that can be transmuted into a superpower. Okay. It doesn't necessarily have to mean passion, love. It can be just connection with people and being able to really enforce that. The elements are that when we have something that we perceive we don't have, like let's just say if there is a really deep void on love and connection, we'll just pick on that one for now, then if something happens in our life that gives us the feeling and the perception that we don't have it, or someone has attacked that, we will feel a lot worse than, say, the next person.
So you amplify.
It becomes a trigger.
Okay.
So it becomes a trigger because we perceive it not to be there. Right. So because we perceive it not to be there, it could be something completely off track that's got no relevance to love and connection. But if that person felt in their perception, in their map of the world, they felt like, there's that lack inside them, that can really open up that, that trigger and that, I guess, those wounds, if you like. The other element is, importance and significance. This is actually mine, believe it or not. And this is a very classic example. So it sounds a bit conceited. It can almost seem egotistical or arrogant, but it's not. So a lot of people that crave a sense of significance, importance, and relevance, it's because a deep lack that they've had. So somewhere along the line, something has happened and they didn't feel that way.
So, okay, am I reading this right? If they feel like they've been minimised, say, in their childhood, for argument's sake, so that's why they seek that level of importance in life. That's why, like, whether it be a title or this or that, an accolade.
Yeah, Martin Luther King.
What
some of these,
man
some of these visionaries. I mean, even Andrew Carnegie, he was about steel and he was fabulous at what he did. However, he made that pledge within him that he would overcome poverty because his mother was a struggling single mum,
Yep.
and he
He didn't
saw
want to see it again.
it hurt him so badly that it became his superpower. So he was able to really turn that around. A lot of brilliant people also have things that are quite deficit. So they can be even on the spectrum of, say, for example, a brilliant person, like they say that people like Elon Musk is on that borderline brink of, neurodivergence.
No question about it.
I won't say what one, because obviously it's just sort of out there, but quite often if a person was made to feel very small or insignificant, that will play a huge role in what is very important to them, what triggers them, what pulls them apart, and what can put them back together again.
This kind of explodes what you're saying. I mean, you turn your pain into your power, and it's almost like it's. And again, this is my interpretation of it, but it's almost like at a subconscious level, that is firing you in that other direction. It's firing you to try and counterbalance, because in life we want balance, right? It's kind of what we're after. So if you've got a negative thing here, okay, that's weighing you down, well, you want to grab yourself a positive to try and maybe take some of this positive and whack it on top of that negative to bring that balance. Does that make sense?
Oh, it certainly does. It very much does. And, they say when the chips are down, this is the thing. People are so supportive, Some people, can you believe this? This is true. I mean, I see this in clinic all the time, that they feel that they want to stay in a negative state because somewhere along the line, they don't want to, like, logically, but there's something that pulls them back because they've learned a behavior that when the chips are down, that's when they get the love. That's when they get the support. That's when they get or if they have this dramatic story that they've got to talk about with themselves all the time. I even had a lady once come up and say to me, Terry, I always love telling these stories. And it was almost like she was sensationalizing a lot of stuff. But then when we got deep into it, it's because she perceived that she was more interesting. So
she probably had a lack of value in herself, right?
Yeah,
she thought maybe she's a bit dull.
Yeah.
So by living in the negativity, she made herself interesting.
She wired herself. Along the line, she came to learn that. People come to learn that, if they're doing something, they're in this negative kind of a situation, that if they've been fed something that gave their soul that instant kind of hit of dopamine, they learn to do it over and over again.
I knew a guy many, many years ago that, like, he was a bit like Eeyore. It was like, everything was, and he was a very charismatic person. That sounds a strange contradiction, but he really was. But he also had a split personality as far as it was all Eeyore. Get a couple of drinks into him, and it's Mr. Party, 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 right?
Oh, okay.
But what I'm getting at is the reinforcement of his sadness and his struggles. If he reinforced how much he was struggling all the time, people were drawn to him. Why? Because people want to help, right?
Exactly.
And like whenever I've found situations in my life that I find myself falling down that path, I like smack myself around the head a little bit, because I kind of think about that person, and I don't think that's a good way to live. I think that, it's great to draw people towards you. Fantastic. It's great to have great people in your life who want to help you, but there's also, to my mind, there's a lot of value of dragging yourself up by your own bootstraps. It's your responsibility, right? If you've got someone who you love in your life, okay, it's not their responsibility to make you happy.
Yeah, this is so true. I have a little bit of that thing going on for me. I have that. Yeah, I have that rescuing spirit.
Yep.
And, you know, sometimes you've really got to discipline yourself to go, right, let go and tell yourself this is their journey. You know, it's not
Let them have the
my
journey.
responsibility to make that person happy. And when I have, even if it's someone close enough to me, I might even be able to read what the higher purpose is in it for them.
Okay.
And even when it seems disastrous, okay, you can say, hang on a minute, in a very offbeat kind of a way, they're living their best life.
It's an offbeat way, that's
in
for
a
sure.
very offbeat way. And I know you don't have any context around this,
Yep.
but, you know, if a person, for example, was craving the love of someone,
Sure.
and then that same person was also a person who, you know, had a kind of a value system for learning about life and personal growth, or maybe the human body. And then all of a sudden they land up in a situation where they're hospitalized.
Right.
And then they've got all the attention. And then they're getting fed 3 times a day. They're kind of living their best life in an offbeat way.
Well, in an offbeat way, they've kind of, they've drawn to them. They've kind of designed the life that they want to live.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
they have, but they haven't been specific enough. But when you can look at it that everybody's journey is their own journey, we can't change it, we can't control it. And listen to me go, girl, talking to myself. But we cannot control how others are.
You
and
can't.
Sometimes, you know, I even see in relationships where people want to save their relationship.
Sure.
So they will go out of their way to try and change that other person. I'm sure you've heard about this before, right?
Experienced it.
But it's like, yes, of course you have. And it's like, yes, you are wanting to change them to your expectation so that they can be not themselves.
So you shouldn't have picked them.
Yes.
Okay. Like this, I get very annoyed about this because I see so many people out there who I call them renovators. You know, they go, oh, I met this really nice guy. You know, if you just change this, you know what? We're not a job where you need to do the wallpapering and some nice drapes. Okay. Like fall in love with us rather than what you think you can mold us. We're not, you know, look, don't get me wrong, in a relationship, you change a little bit, you mold yourself, you know, you become a couple and there's compromises and changes in you.
Yeah.
But they're there to make, like, just, if you're with someone, you should be happy and you should have chosen that person because you love the core of who they are.
Do you know Mel Robbins? Have you heard of her? She's like, she's
You'd
NLP queen.
Yeah,
she's not related to Anthony Robbins, but she's NLP.
Okay.
She wrote a book called Let Them.
Right.
And I would highly advise people to go and have a look at it or even look at that, but let them, you know, that is giving them the freedom to do them and to be them. But it also addresses grief and, you know, elements where, because quite often when we're disappointed or life is not going to, you know, how we want it to go, it comes down to our own value system and expectation. And so if we are imparting that expectation, especially if we're talking now a relationship type of thing, we cannot expect that person to mold and shape and be someone else so that you can control them, and then the minute you take your hands off, boom, they blow up in a puff of smoke or become themselves, because that's just a
well, you're suppressing them.
You
right?
are
And like,
suppressing.
why would you want to suppress anyone? Like, you know, that's the thing. It's a big part. As I say, like obviously, as I say, there's all compromises in life, and when you're with somebody, I get that. But yeah, please stop renovating, and that's a big thing that we see. You know, like. Yeah, I think that you're diminishing who they are. And ultimately, how often in life do you say, you know, you go do you, you know, you be you.
You do you, yes.
Well, how about we live by our own words, okay, and we actually let people do that. I'm going to take this little opportunity for a moment, if I may. We've lots of messages have come through, and I just want to say a quick hello to some people. So g'day to Gary. Thank you very much for saying hello all the way over there in New Zealand. Fantastic, mate. Fantastic to have you aboard today. Christian's put some great messages through, which I'll go through as we speak and put some more of those up.
If he has any questions, feel free
I'll
to
definitely
read
jump
them
on
out.
that.
I'd be happy
lovely
to
to see you
answer.
too, Melissa. Fantastic. Good day to you too. And I might just jump onto with that point. I'll bring this one up of Christian's, if I may.
Let's do
Let's
that.
have a look. We'll bring it up on the big screen so we can both see.
Yeah.
There we go.
You give me passion, Aaron Malloy, and connection. We have a family. You came to a birthday at Morley once, and that meant so much to me. But I know I have a void, and you guys coming into my life from that pizza night, that means a lot. Well, there you go.
Thank you very much, champion.
Yeah, you know what? That everything, it's all part of what you treasure. You see, you have such a deep appreciation for that, and that's where it becomes a value system. And that's where, you know, real powerful relationships are actually made. But, you know, on a kind of a slightly different note, where it wasn't about trying to change or control anyone. I don't know whether you ever remember me talking about some of the motley boyfriends I had when I was growing up.
I can imagine.
Gosh, can you really?
Yeah, really.
Okay, you can. Okay. And all the good boys that were going places, that are multi-millionaires these days is just, you know, ho-hum, but, you know, multi-millionaires, I didn't want to have a bar with them. I did not want to know them. I'm talking about these guys, you know, that were decent. But then here I am absolutely chasing after the rat bags. And, you know.
Yeah, because girls love the bad boy, right?
Look,
okay,
this was obscene. I mean, one guy, I mean, I wasn't even 16 years old. I think he spent most of his time in Longmore, you know, juvenile detention. But you know something, I realized, like, what is it that truly attracted me to those kind of people? But you know what? There was that rescuing spirit in me. So even though there's an element that, no, it wasn't about, this is where I think even as a young girl, I kind of had some of the superpower in me, even though it wasn't really fanned into flames or it wasn't operating, but there was little sneak previews of it.
It was software, but it wasn't installed.
Yeah,
right?
it wasn't installed. It was uninstalled software. I love that. And so it would come out with me being able to see the best in people and see their potential. So rather than actually trying to change them, and I mean, this is just one of my strengths. I've talked about my weaknesses, but, you know, this is just one of my strengths. So when you see something in a person, when you believe in a person, and I learnt this when my kids were teenagers, and you really put that belief into them, it is more compelling than trying to change anyone. So it's almost like an assumption that you assume that, you know, like my eldest daughter, you know, I went through a story where we nearly lost her to anorexia nervosa, and she went off the wall, and, you know, I carried her home on a plane from Bali, and we'd nearly lost her in Bali several times because she was around about 38 kilos of weight.
Whoa.
And, you know, she'd already been through the hospital system. And the fact is that she would not change. She could not get healed. Number one, she wouldn't let me near her with a 10-foot disinfectant pole. And number two, they have to make the decision. But you know something, I would say one thing to her, and I believe it had a lot of power, and that was, I believe in you. I know you are going to be all right in the end, because you're like a cat and you always land on your feet. And I would say it a lot. I would say it to her a lot. I know you're going to be okay. But it's almost like, you know, because I'm quite intuitive as well. I wouldn't call myself psychic or anything bizarre like that, but, you know, I'm quite intuitive. So when she was very young, I knew I was going to have big problems with her.
Okay.
But as much as those problems were off the Richter scale, really and truly, I mean, when a person nearly loses their life, you can't get much worse than that.
That's running the line.
it's about not, there was nothing I could do or say to, as far as trying to help her or trying to change her.
There's
She
something.
had to
Oh,
make
yeah,
that
I
decision.
agree and disagree.
It was belief. It
Yeah,
was belief.
okay, you stole the words out of my mouth. When you said before, I was going to interrupt you, but I thought, no, I do that enough. When you say, I believe in you, and you actually mean it, right? Like people throw it around, people say, I believe in you. That's a carton. When the phone goes off, that's a carton. The fridge is going to be very full soon. Um, but okay, people say a lot of empty things through life, okay, and they're trying to make you feel better or whatever, which is great, and that's really lovely. But when somebody truly believes in you and they say it to you, and there's depth in it, right?
Yeah.
Like especially, we all know. I haven't seen my children for a ridiculous amount of time. Okay, we're looking at 8 years. Okay, and I still to this day remember having conversations with them and telling them that I believed in them. You know, my son, when he was 6 years old, I mean, I just knew, like you said about your child, you knew she was going to be a bit of trouble. You know, like I saw the grit and determination in my little boy. Okay, I saw the inner strength that he had. And when he wanted to do things, you know, I saw his self-doubt. I mean, I remember when, okay, all kids go through this, riding a bike, right? Riding a bike. And he tried to put on the fake bravado and tried to pretend that he was comfortable with it, but he was quite frightened. He was actually, you know, not ready in his sort of mind there. But there's a video floating around a little bit that God, it makes me proud. And he's actually riding his bike. He's only been riding for like about, at this stage, he's at the point where he's only been riding on his own for about 10 minutes, right? And he's riding along and he's going, I'm a winner, right? And I like to think I put that there. I like to think that I put that confidence there, you know, because I saw he didn't actually have it. Yeah. And I just thought, by saying I believe in you and meaning it, right? Because I knew you just had to break through that glass, mate. You just had to break through that glass from the point of, I don't know I can do it, to the point that, oh, I can do this. And being, you know, related to me and being a little bit of a cocky little SOB, he went straight from being, you know, non-confident, and about 3 minutes later he's, I'm a winner, you know, he's kicking butt with it.
So good.
Yeah.
And there's, I guarantee, just by looking at those pictures, because anybody close enough to you knows the love you have for your children. But you know what? You probably have a love for your kids that is so insatiable because they're not there. And that's a very classic example, if you don't mind me saying.
No, I thoroughly agree, because, okay, I mean, I love my kids more than you can imagine, and I did when they were with me. But no matter what in life, you take it for granted.
Exactly.
Right? We do. And when they were stolen from me, and they were literally stolen from me, you know, there's no more honest way of explaining it than that.
It's the way it is.
It's a criminal act.
But they were also robbed, because they were robbed of the greatest father figure that they could have had in their life. And this is the whole, you got to read that book, Aaron. I know you're not a reader, but go in and YouTube it. But it's Let Them. Yeah. Because and I'm not talking about your kids, I'm talking about the people responsible for what happened. You've got to let them, because, you know, what happens, there's something very strange that happens where you're holding on to something and you become so tenacious, and, you know, because you're holding on to it, it's almost like, well, there's nowhere to go with it. But if you release it and let it go, there is something very magical and very powerful. Now, if you're talking manifestation, then obviously manifestation does definitely derive, you know, through the art of letting go, right? However, if you are talking about the perceiving of what you do not feel that you have, like, and it's probably, you know, physically very much a truth for you. But did you know, when we are holding grudges and we are having these deep grievances, and we all do, this is just how it is for everyone out there, while we're having deep grievances, and it's just a natural part of life to have that. So we can't, prevent that from happening, because that's just the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if there is when talking about the more woo-woo world, if it is a karmic or retributional thing,
Mm-hmm.
by actually letting it go, it allows the universe, God, to take care of that, rather than us thinking that we can take care of it by our anger or our frustration or the feelings that we've got. But there is a lot to be said about letting go, but there's also a lot to be said about being able to look at, like, if you had your children, like if you could go back
Mm-hmm.
8 years in time,
Yep.
guaranteed the kind of father, even so that you were a great father, would be even at a larger, more exponential level. And I'm not even joking.
Okay.
Because it's almost like, even though that's to do with parenting, children grow up, so they become adults.
They do.
But then there is something else from that is, I believe, playing out into your purpose, especially if that has been one of your biggest woundings. So getting back to the
go on.
yeah,
Sorry.
so getting back to the importance I was talking about, because I didn't feel important, and you totally called that for what it was. So yes, as a child, because there was probably just a couple of events. It wasn't like a ongoing thing, but those events, there's usually about 2 or 3 events that happen in our life that ingrain that value system and that belief system, and that's where we perceive we don't have it, and that's where we want it so badly that it creates.
Look, I'm with you on this. I used to, whenever I used to hear all the psychologist things about, on TV shows, and tell me about your childhood, I used to think, oh, right, the eyes would roll back, and I would just like, come on, here we go again. But no, I mean, honestly, most of the things that we do in our life, most of the decisions we make, I have subsequently, through my sarcasm and my refusal to, my being a cynic, pretty much, I guess. But now I've proven myself to be very wrong. I've actually, when I look now and I look at all of these experiences of the people in my life, myself, people I care about, people who contact me, and as you can imagine, in this role here at Edge, I get contacted by a lot of people with a lot of stories, and it's a lot to take on. But inherently, it seems like almost all of them come from something that happened in their childhood. So as much as I want to think Freud and all those people are absolute nutters, the reality is they were right. And I look at my own life, and I have realization of that there are events of my childhood that shaped me in a positive way, and other ones that shaped me in a very negative way.
Yes, conditioning. That's all it is. And as long as we are not nursing and rehearsing, because that's what we do, that's just what we do. The human being tends to hold on to the hurt and the trauma, and then there's this protective mechanism. But what it's about, it's quite often it's about, if there is that void of emptiness, and usually that's what it is. It's an emptiness of, whether that's around grief, loss, whether it's lost love, whether it's lack of self-importance, or whether it's uncertainty, because that's the third one, the uncertainty, and really not knowing who you are in life or where you're going, and feeling that shaky ground. So whatever it is, if you can understand that there are times, there are pertinent events that happened in your timeline that can be now looked at it from the point of, that's the past. It's not happening anymore. I don't have to drag my past into the future.
Sure.
So really what happens is, whatever that lack is, so say for you, I'm just going to pull love and connection out of the bag here. If it is that for you, and let's just say for me, and I've said it's important. So I'll go
further than that. I think that, and I'd encourage anyone who's watching, if you've got any comments or questions, to pop them up, because I'd certainly like to cover those. But I don't find a lack of love or connection Okay.
Mm.
In fact, I probably love a little too hard and I connect a little too hard.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
I might be like,
yeah.
I might super glue the bits of Lego together. So, maybe I know that.
But it might be your superpower as well.
Well, you never know. I know now, and this is only something I've, with doing work on myself, I've actually realised my decisions in life and the people I've chosen to be with and the bad calls that I've made in that regard is all about abandonment.
Yeah,
right?
that's huge.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's the biggest one.
Yeah, somebody who I loved and trusted in my life who was important to me, and I'm not going to go through all of that.
No.
But someone with massive position in my life dumped me places, okay, abandoned me, like literally left me out in the bush, in the middle of the bush to, I could have died. Right?
Yeah.
And, as now that's something, that you put away and you kind of suppress a little bit, or a whole lot, I guess. But then when you look back and you go, oh my God, I'm choosing these people based on the fact that they won't abandon me. Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
And I look and I go, I sweep in like I'm on a white horse. I'll save you. Right. So I'm always looking to save somebody. Right. Because I kind of think that there's on a subconscious level, and it's an exchange. If I save you, you won't leave me.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's a belief.
Yeah.
So that's a belief system.
Yeah. And that's that belief system has, quite frankly, brought much more negativity to my life than positivity. Yeah.
But now you've said it.
Yep.
There's a power in that awareness and being able to actually acknowledge it. So, here's the thing. We can't be unrealistic to say, well, we're going to turn a negative into a positive when we know it's not. But when we can go back and we can, or even look at what's happening in your life right now, you'll notice that if you ask yourself the question rather than having to know all the details and say, well, what is it that I perceive that is not quite there? So is it a lack of love and connection? Is it a lack of importance and, my self-worth and who I am? Is it a lack of confidence? Or is it a lack of contribution? And, because these are the other ones, fun, variety and contribution are part of the human needs.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. Okay. So fun and variety is the mirror of certainty, believe it or not. So with certainty, we all need to have certain things in our life that we know, like there's a ground underneath the floor. We take that for granted. There's a chair here. We're not just sitting here on thin air. Okay, we're pretty certain about that, right? And there are some people who are afraid of certainty. So while there are some people that want it and crave it because maybe they didn't have any in their life in some events growing up. So therefore they crave that certainty. And then you get people that absolutely dodge for cover because fun and variety is the opposite to certainty because it's uncertainty. Because usually when you're doing something, you don't know what's going to...
It's fun, it's fresh,
you're on the edge.
Right? Yeah.
No pun intended, but you're kind of on the edge. So it's fun and variety and it's very spontaneous. And we all do need that. We definitely need that.
About what's going to happen.
You can't.
No.
Yeah.
And that's great. I love that.
Yeah. And we have to know that nothing is, really missing in our life. Like even if we, if I was right and there was a perception that there was a part of you that felt a void in that love and connection, and yet yourself it's a superpower. That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Joining you, Dogs.
So, and then when it comes to the contribution, that's a really big part of our life purpose, contributing to something bigger than ourselves.
I think
so. Sometimes if we're searching and we don't know what we're searching for, quite often it can be wrapped up in our life purpose and that contribution that we want to give to the world. But here's the thing, to turn it all around and kind of summarize it in a way of manifestation so we can bring what we were going to talk about last week together with this week and make it a kind of a wholesome thing, is if you were looking at what you feel really defeated at the moment. So if there is an area of your life and you're really feeling that you're challenged, look at that, but don't look at it in that specific event and the people and all of those things. Look at it from the energetic point of view.
Okay.
Like, what does it actually mean to you? What is missing here? Are you lacking certainty? Are you lacking peace? Are you lacking freedom? Are you lacking whatever it is? And kind of look at it from the energy, more around the energy. And then look at, okay, if you don't know what your big vision for the future is, really, guys, it's about being able to live every day in the absolute presence of, whatever bliss that you would find. And, what does that mean to you? So, for example, if it's excitement to Christian, let's say, for example, say if it's connection to you, say if it is freedom for the next person, what you've got to do is you've got to paint that picture and ask yourself questions like, well, what is it going to take for me to feel that way? And then really work on creating the feelings and the emotions and filling yourself up with all of those energy words like peace, joy, freedom, inspiration, enthusiasm, and all those elements. And then you could say to yourself, well, okay, now that I see what that is, you've got the ingredients. And then when you look over the other side and you go, well, that's what is lacking. I'm always running into that brick wall. I'm always made to feel this way. This seems to be, I'm feeling crushed, or I'm feeling burdened, or I'm feeling this, or I'm feeling that. You've got to look at what that is that's giving you the superpower to be that person here.
So what's the fuel?
It's the bridge. So here is the adversity and the pain.
Yep.
And over here is the energetics, if you will, of what it's like to be living in your greatest life. Like if you appreciate feeling free and waking up, like what are the, think about what are the feelings that you want to feel every day when you wake up. And if it's loved, respected, free, connected. Okay, so really work on that. But know that over here is a leverage.
Okay.
It is like the motor, it's like the engine, and it's the undergirding part that is fueling that. But you've got to learn from it. You've got to be able to let it go and go, well, thank you for that. Goodbye.
Thanks. Lessons learned. All right. Next.
Goodbye. Get lost. You can go now. And then, after you have carved your energy and the frequency, ask yourself this question: what can I do today to make sure that I'm feeling that? What is one thing?
And day by day, that's like, you just not look at a big, long, don't set yourself targets too far away.
Yeah.
Set yourself a nice, quick, close target.
Yeah.
And that could be today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because there's no point building a big empire on sandy beach.
No.
You're just not going to have the foundations.
Unless it's a sandcastle. But
exactly. But, this gives you the foundations.
I agree.
And, the foundations to your manifestation comes from, the knowledge to at least let go of this, and the knowledge and the awareness to be able to say, well, I want to feel these things every single day and work on it bit by bit. And you know what, when you're, then asking yourself the question, well, what is it going to be? Maybe I'll ring a friend. Maybe I need to jump in the car and go for a long drive down south. Or maybe, I know, wind in your hair,
just rub it in.
Like the window down, that little teardrop coming out of the corner of your eye as the wind.
Look at the romance you're adding to a bit of moisture in the eye, but there we go.
That's hypnotic stuff there. It's how we kind of create it. So you sort of, you're meditating to yourself and really bringing that in. Now, that's when you've got that rock solid foundation, Aaron.
Okay.
That's when you can start painting pictures of whatever it is that you want, building empires, creating, your legacy. It could be just being the most amazing person at home to bring up your family, or it could be being a great teacher, or, it could be just impacting freedom of speech.
We've all got our own currency.
Exactly.
Whatever happens to, whatever makes us happy, whatever fills our soul, right?
Yeah.
And for some people for some people it'll be money. Some people it'll be property. Some people it'll be building a life for your family.
Yes.
Everybody's got a different currency, and when you find yours, like be kind to yourself and kind of, I don't know what's the word? I'm struggling to explain.
Currency is a great word, because
I think
currency is what is moving, and it's energy, and it's frequency, and money is a currency.
Well, yeah,
and everyone's got their own currency, as you say.
It's no good, like, I'm going to use Christian, because he's there. I'll use Christian as an example here, but a guy who if his passion was his cars, okay, and all that kind of thing, well, wouldn't be any good trying to sell him a dream on a boat. Do you know what I mean? Stick on the things that you love.
Right. You can't sell ice creams to Eskimos, Aaron.
You cannot.
And and that's right. And that's why it's got to be very personal to yourself. You've got to honour yourself. You've got to really know what flicks your switch, what floats your boat, what it is that's going to light you up. It doesn't need to be 100 things every day. If it is better health, if a person's got really bad health, like I've just seen a lady who 5 years on TikTok, and she was probably the most famous and well-loved person on TikTok, and she only passed away in the last 24 hours, but that was classic. And she had a cancer journey but she was a beacon of light to, thousands of people.
Yep.
And, she smiled through everything, and she's left a legacy. So there is a legacy. And I think the TikTok world is going to be very sad to have lost her, because 5 years she has been every day
sharing her story with people.
Fighting for her life and saying, listen, guys, love on each other. Don't sweat the small stuff. Take it from the person who's dying on their deathbed. Love on people. It's not worth it. Tell your loved ones that you love them.
This
feed
is something
yourself.
I've always done. Okay, and I really, really, really recommend this. That tell the people in your life who you love, tell them every day. I think it's unbelievably important, and that's something I have always done. I know, to me, it's so important. You don't know when your last day on earth is going to come, right?
You
so
absolutely
wouldn't
don't.
it be it's the greatest gift that if that's the last thing you say, not that you want to pass away, but that's the people who love you need to know, and you need to say it. Your actions and your words need to be very, very transparent and often and consistent, and all those sorts of things.
Yes, and be present.
Be present.
Be really present. I mean, people have some of the gurus that understand this stuff, like Joe Dispenza and Eckhart Tolle. They know that, being present and going into your body and being with every muscle and cell of your body is healing in itself.
Yep.
That in itself, just the fiber of, feeling the ground underneath your feet, feeling the breath of life, being grateful for it, because gratitude, life force, gratitude is all those things. And, what I did just, finally to conclude what I had in mind to talk about is that when I was doing a mastermind class the other day, we did all of the frequency stuff. So admittedly, it was done through NLP. So, it's one thing for me to talk about it. It's another thing to take people through it, releasing their negative energy and letting them learn from it and see how it does fuel here, and then carving their highest frequency and getting them into that state that we've talked about, which is 101 NLP stuff. So that is something that you have to, as an NLP practitioner, it's probably the only thing you have to really learn to know how to do, and that's to get people into a different state, especially if they've been in a negative state. You've got to be able to switch them And if you can do that, like, wow, that in itself is huge. And I didn't get everybody to dream, this massive big dream of what they wanted to, call in or put out there. But rather than do that, I gave them homework.
Okay.
And the homework was, you now go. Now that we've done the work on your energy, now we've released and dissolved and cleared, and you've learnt from that negative. Now it's time for you to sit down and talk about what you're going to do with all this health that you've got, what you're going to do with all this love that you've got, what you're going to do with all this money that you've got, what you're going to do with all this purpose and power that you've got, and just answer those questions line by line. Doesn't have to be huge.
No, it doesn't have to be huge.
Totally it's just answering it, and then your vision will start to come to life, because one of the biggest problems I think people have is they just don't know.
No, they don't. You don't know what your passion is. You don't know what your purpose in life until something comes, and whether it be adversity or a change of circumstances or whatever, but it comes and slaps you across the face and says, hey, here is the reason you're here. This is your mission. And this is your thing.
That's it.
Yeah. Now, if I want to get in contact with you, I can, because I've got your phone number. But for other people who might want to get a hold of you and talk about the wonderful work that you do, what's the best way?
Okay, well, why don't you find me on Facebook or go to terrymessenger.com. You can book a call and, I guess just tune into these shows. Yep. Leave a comment if you happen to be on socials. Leave a comment and, I'll certainly be happy to connect with you. And also, can I ask one last question before we close down?
Yep.
Okay, guys, so here's my thing. So what's your energy? What is it going to feel like? Does it feel like peace, joy, freedom, inspiration, empowerment, confidence? I want you to really hone in and know exactly which one is the top one. And then ask yourself this question: why does that mean so much to me?
Oh, good question. Good question. And on that bombshell and with that homework, it's the end of the show. Look, if you enjoy what we do here, please, if you could like, share, do all those sort of things that the old YouTubers say out there, it would really would massively appreciate it, because we're trying to do something very positive here. Terry does wonderful work, and we would like to share that work everywhere we possibly could. Seeing some wonderful messages coming in from all around the world, and it is just very heartwarming to do that. But of course, with your help, we can help even more people. So with that, we'll end the show. Thank you very much for being part of the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia.